Hello, and welcome to Scuttlebutt, the War Movie Review Podcast. We're happy to have you with us as we take a look at films from the dawn of cinema to today. We aim to provide a raw and unapologetic review of each film's cinematography, historical accuracy, and delivery. In the process of analysis, certain details will be revealed. These spoilers are only divulged to ensure a fair assessment of each film. We joined the French First Corps this week in Alsace with Jean-Pierre Denis' 1987 Franco-Prussian War film, Field of Honor. As always, I'm joined by Mike A.
Hello.
Mike B.
Yep.
And Nate.
First try.
So guys, what do you think?
Well, after all of this levity from this intro right here, I have to say, this movie, I was sad at the end of this fucking movie,
You
dude.
sure
This
did
movie.
pick a sad stinker there, Brian.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's not a ton of tragic death and destruction and all of this chaos and massacres and shit like that. But just the end of it with how it ends, I just it really moved me. I was very sad at the end of this. The third act, I thought, was where this movie really shined. I thought I kind of was picking apart the movie. I could see where it was going, but once the third act came and then it concluded, I was like, damn, that made it all much better than I was expecting.
This was a real fucking shocker. No, I totally agree. I just wanted to, kind of get out of where we have been for a while, get like an interesting European war. And I figured, what the fuck, Franco-Prussian? And I found this film, and it's the most recent Franco-Prussian film ever made. And it probably will be for a long time. Almost
1989, I think.
87.
87.
Yeah.
And it really,
Really sad.
yeah, it didn't really go anywhere. It said it was like it got some laurels, and then it was like submitted to Cannes, and then that was it. And I see why it didn't win. It's just, but it's a very interesting film, and there was like you said, like the third act was really surprising to me, and that's what like really drew me in. I was like writing notes and stuff like whatever, and then I was like, oh fuck, like now I really want to know what happens. And there was a lot of things that were just like, were so well done, and period, and drew you in. Like the accents, like motherfucker, that was so well done. And when you read like a lot of memoirs, like I've fucking read a ton. Like for example, Guy Sawyer, he wrote Forgotten Soldier, which is like one of the best World War II Wehrmacht memoirs. Well, he's from Alsace, and through the whole book he talks about how French people don't understand him and Germans don't understand him because there's this like really fucked up dialect that's just in that region, those two provinces. So
I did, when I was watching the movie, like I did notice that it didn't sound like anything I had heard before. That language, like I can usually pick up French or German, I can tell what that is. It was much more difficult with this movie.
Yeah, well, they have the guy from Flanders in there too, which is also like really fucked up. You have Flemish, you have a bunch of different like regional things, but I didn't expect language to become such a factor in this, and I thought that was really fascinating. And just goes to show Europe at the time. But before we really get further into it, like, what do you think, Nate?
I feel like I'm like an uncultured swine. I didn't like it.
Ooh, interesting.
It's fine.
I mean, it's interesting. The third act is completely, kind of not the cliche kind of feeling, but I was bored. I was really fucking bored. Really fucking bored. Like, I don't know what to tell you. It was interesting, but I was bored. The language was interesting, but I don't know what to tell you. It's the first movie we've seen in a while where I'm just like, I'm checked out. Like, it's just...
But you did watch the whole thing?
Yeah.
Okay, you stayed through it.
I even watched when he called someone like a raping donkey something baby. I don't know. It's the thing where he has the axe and he's like about to strike a bunch of people. Like I'm watching Brian's face as I talk, and it's like it's really funny. But like
wait to get to my first.
I just didn't. It's not bad. It's just boring. It didn't hold me. Call me a simpleton. Call me like, oh, if there's not people getting like dismembered and blown up, that I don't have interest. It just didn't grab me. I thought it was a very interesting time period to do this in, but I felt like you could do this whole entire story in a completely other time period and it would still be the same thing.
I agree with that. But
it's been done too. The Soldier Boy story has been done a lot throughout time.
Yeah, and I have some thoughts on.
Like again, like I'm not saying like don't watch it. Everyone should like I've said repeatedly over these podcasts so far. It's like even if we don't like them, even if the person like you find their opinions to be very valuable in these conversations that we have, still watch it even if I don't like it. Like if you value my opinion, shockingly, still go watch this movie. You might pull something out of it. But to me personally, I just was very bored. I was very checked out. I thought the uniforms, the battle sequences, and that whole thing up to about I think when he finds the boy, I check out. Which is probably when you guys checked in, but like that's when I checked out. I was like, nope.
Yep.
It's just not for me. It was interesting. I liked like you guys were talking about the language. I actually wanted to ask you a question. What language is that? Because it sounded French but German combined.
Alsatian.
I have no idea.
It's both. Yeah,
It's
Alsatian.
literally a mix.
I've
It's like
never heard of
Pennsylvania
that.
Dutch or Texas German. It's just like
Okay.
it's a local regional dialect. Like I was saying earlier,
the best. I think the best kind of like comparison to make it to is like Yiddish, where it's half
okay.
Hebrew, half German, right?
Yeah.
But in this case, it's half German, half French.
French.
Yeah.
Okay.
So because Alsace, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that later on, definitely.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, because it was just very interesting. Like it kept throwing me off. Like I kept thinking like the merchant guy was like German, and then he spoke half in French.
He
I'm
was
like, what the
Flemish.
fuck
He
is
was
going on?
he's from like west or north
He speaks-
northeastern
probably
French
speaks
or
Dutch.
western Belgium. Yeah.
Well, even the
Right.
Or he-
Yeah.
the little
But like
kid
when he first started talking, I thought he was like German. I'm like, wait, no,
right.
Yeah.
Well, even
Yeah.
the little kid when he speaks, it sounds doesn't sound like pure German or anything like that. you
right,
know?
yeah, it's like that weird hybrid. But
It's
no,
a
I
very
mean
soft
like,
accent. Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
I mean like again, I mean like, I thought it was a very well done film. I was just very bored through it.
I could see that. Yeah, we'll definitely touch that.
Oh no, I can see it too.
Mike B, I'll hand it off to you. Excuse me.
Yep. And so what Nate was saying is, I actually with this one I agree. I was very bored because what was the film we were talking about where it's like, are you making a film about this war or the time period? Like, what was that? It was recent.
Oh well, I mentioned that when we did Danger Close, because I'm just like, are you
Danger
making a
Close,
war
okay.
about
Yeah,
Australians in
okay.
Vietnam, or are you making a movie about the
Right.
Battle of Long Tan? Because there's two different roads here.
Right. Okay, exactly. And so that's kind of the thing that I got was like, it's propped up to be a Franco-Prussian War film. Okay, like it's involved, and yes, there are a lot of details about like the whole like you can sell your lucky number to a richer person that can pay you for it. Blah blah. That actually hasn't changed, but like that whole thing, like that's fine, that's cool, and like. But here's the thing: is they never explain in the film at all that they don't even give one sentence as to why they were going to war with Prussia, ever. Not one word. And I get that's what the people might have thought, and like that's probably the news they would have gotten is we're going to war, but like why? Okay, well, it would have been cool in the film's perspective to like just give the audience a little bit of background on it. Like, why did Prussia go to war with France? Why was that? And you don't need to like spend 15, 20 minutes on that. You can just do it in a couple lines. Like, just say it. They didn't do that. Okay, whatever. So getting past that, it's like, okay, build up. There's like a half-assed portrayed battle with our protagonist, right? He escapes, gets out of the battlefield, blah, blah. And then it's just like this weird trope story, like you were saying, of like, oh, the war child. Like, it's like, okay, we find the child and like we gotta protect him, bring him back and whatever. But it's like, none of that shit was realistic. Nothing. And like the combat, they showed like very little of that. And I know it's because of budgetary restrictions and all that shit. I get that. But if you're going to make this about the Franco-Prussian War, maybe give a little bit of context. Maybe show a little bit more of how the combat was. because it was fucked up. And that's the thing we're talking about in the second is like how fucked up that combat was and like the year they had. It's fucking insane. But like, and it's like, yeah, the ending, the third act was okay, but it was also very slow. And it was like, so this has nothing to do with the fucking war anymore, except for the fact that it's a looming thing, right? It's a looming evil. Go ahead, Nate.
Well, like it's a story set during the Franco-Prussian War, not necessarily a movie in the Franco-Prussian War. Like there's no again. I think what I said before was like you could do the story in any war or any setup with the same story. Yep. And then I think that's what I have the problem with is that, granted, we can't pick what movie, is in with what war. This is the only one for this time period, so I get we don't have much of a selection. But, like, me personally, as a lover of historical movies, I'd rather see more of the time period kind of set out a little bit more. I mean, they did do that to a sense, like the wood chopping and the rich... the people dynamics and the Prussians coming in and taking over and pushing people around, and I get it, like they did do that, but I think I wanted less kid and boy and more of that, per se. And I just whacked my mic. I'm sorry, everyone. Brian.
Brian, go ahead.
Yeah. So yeah, just to touch on a few of these points, this is a French art house movie.
Well, that's why I fucking hate it.
I know. I know that people usually beat to death these films, and I understand it, but just putting it out there. So we're in a certain category of films, so that you do lose some things like descriptions or whatever, So that I'll just say that first half. It's an art house movie. There we go. And I think the tone was just they were trying to make it peasant, matter of fact. That was one thing I did like about it. I actually liked that you don't really get a description. Why are the bells going off? Why are the fucking Algerians here? Oh, we're going to war. Like how you found out those things. And I like the way that this film really did a lot to set the vibe. Like I really felt like, they were in the late 1860s, 1870s. Like it had like a very Barry Lyndon feel, like just they did a really good job of showing, the era and everything and what was happening. And even from the beginning with the audio cue, this is what's happening. Like, oh, you could sell your number. Because when he sold his number, there wasn't any tension or anything, I mean, it was just the army. He was doing something you do. And also how matter of fact it is, the bull dies. What the fuck are you going to do? That's your livelihood. That's your car. So what the fuck? And, tough times mean tough decisions. Yeah, well, the whole film is just matter of fact, And
yes.
But to touch on some of your other things, I really do agree that this film suffered from technical issues, a fucking lot of them, and budgetary issues,
Soundtrack.
I was gonna say.
Yeah.
I mean, the overall look of it. I mean, the overall look is like TV movie of the week. That look of the time. That look where.
Well, Sharp's Rifles. It really reminded me of Sharp's Rifles in that era.
I was gonna say Sharp's Rifles, Ungentlemanly Act. It's the same era. A few years in between. But so we know these films have a good track record. Like normally the TV budget issues aren't. Yes, they are issues, but if they're good, they're good. Mm-hmm. Like Sharp's Rifles is a quintessential example of low budget great film.
Oh yes,
like
I agree.
Of the same ish era, a portrayal era. It is possible, and I think
there are a few gems like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think what Brian had said, like French art house film.
Yeah.
So I think that's where I have my difference of opinion on what I would want to see in a film like this, and I think same with Mike. I think, but it's very interesting looking back at it retrospectively of the details of particularly when the Prussians are in town. Those details shined out to me, and I thought that was very interesting.
Well, because we're here, fucking I love the uniforms. I thought they were really cool. Halfly because, I'm just not used to this era. I know there's Zouaves. I know the influence, like, because the American Civil War, they have a touch of that with, like, the Philadelphia units and things. But it was very neat. to see, and they could be totally fucking wrong, and I wouldn't know. But I thought the Prussians looked really
Right.
cool. I thought that the cavalry looked great, and there were
The
some
Prussians,
very good
can I just
scenes.
make one
Yeah.
really quick interjection?
Those bayonets, though.
The Prussians, well, yeah, we'll get to that. The Prussians at that point, they would have been wearing field gray to an extent. Okay. Most of them would have been wearing the Prussian blue tunics, like the really bright colored Prussian blue tunics. That in this film, I did not see. And it's like, well, okay. They're all wearing gray because I think what happened here is because the Prussians at that point would have been wearing Pickelhauben, right? They would have been wearing the
Yeah.
helmets or the leather helmets with the fucking spike on it. And okay, that's fine. I think what happened in this film is they just assumed that like Germans were Germans back then, but no, they weren't. They were Prussians. They were, Brandenburg. They were Saxons. They were fucking nation states. And the Prussians got all these guys to kind of fight for them, yes, but they were also wearing the Pickelhauben, but they were wearing very brightly colored uniforms, just like the U.S. was, just like Britain was, just like all these other countries were wearing these brightly colored uniforms because it was the black powder era, right? And they're still using black powder in this film, but like that's something to me like Feldgrau was kind of a sparse thing at that point from what I've researched, and they would have been wearing the blue fucking tunics. And in this film, they basically look like World War I German soldiers, right? They're wearing Feldgrau with the Pickelhauben. And it's like, okay, so whoever made this film probably thought that's how they always looked. It's like, no, they didn't. Like, there's a progression in the uniforms and like the style of the Prussians. And also, when they did those couple scenes with the Prussians actually, I'll put this up in a second.
Do you want to put the movie on, by the way?
That's what I'm doing right
Awesome.
Yeah, in a second. But like when they actually were in the town, like the Prussians, they were doing the stereotypical like screaming German thing. The same thing they do with like Japanese soldiers and all that shit. And it's like it's an image, right? And I get it, but like,
Well, it's funny talking about like we all mentioned kind of like some of these cliches and stuff like that. With like the first half of this movie, I was just like picking out all of the stuff that I've seen in other movies that we've watched on this podcast. I was like, okay, it has the whole thing about the people back home getting the letters of people who've died from, that's something that's in We Were Soldiers, and it has the whole thing about being separated and being lost out in the wilderness, which is, from Red Badge of Courage and things like that. And it has the look of kind of those 1980s made-for-TV things, like the All Quiet on the Western Front remake and all that. What I was just not I don't know if I was saying, I wasn't expecting it, is the fact that because I was thinking this was going to be like, okay, this is going to be kind of like the Red Badge of Courage. Eventually he's going to come back either to his unit or to his town, and it's something is going to happen. But like the fact that he just dies.
He just floats away.
Yeah, and just floats away, and then it just turns into this whole thing with this kid coming back. And I'm just like, by the end of it, when it shows, and like his family has no has no closure at all, and on what happened to him, it just really hit me that aspect of it. But everything else, like I can see, it's not a great movie at all. I think it's pretty good. It's interesting, but that aspect of it, I was like, wow, I've never seen something like that in a war film.
One of my favorite quotes from it is, "All the Napoleons do is take our sons." And I'm like, that's just a very interesting, very accurate statement of the time or any time.
Yeah, from an old person too.
Yeah,
like it's like they've been there and they've seen that multiple times, and it's like, yeah, it's very accurate. And then
like when they were in the barracks earlier on, and the guy's like, "Oh, and I got two of those Austrians just like this," And it's like some of the little older veterans. So yeah, it's every war. You lose some of your sons, fathers, uncles, and they don't even mention what happens to his father. Like, oh, your father wanted to fight for this land, and then he's not there. So what war was he killed in and stuff?
Yeah, it's just systematic, but just that aspect of the film, and having it end with that last shot of the boat going down the river. For some reason that just hit me really hard.
Well, they make it so it's like, oh, he's coming back to the farm. It's like fucking Gladiator, except he lived, but nope, it's fucking somewhere on the Seine, fucking,
Dead.
Yeah. Oh, how much money has he got on him? Like, the artillery in the fucking woods was great. How like the trees were falling on guys and shit. I thought that was cool. And that was also a big part of the war. The Germans had incredible artillery.
In my opinion, this part, the combat scene, was like the low point of the movie.
Yeah. Well, I really feel like there's a story we don't know here because they had to have filmed more footage with everything they had. So I wonder if they lost shit or who the fuck knows. But it is very strange.
Again, this is very World War I-esque. Like, as far as they're like filming the artillery, like the artillery at that point was not that sophisticated.
I mean, they were just iron balls, right?
If you look into the war,
no,
though, they were the German artillery is the one thing that they talk about that was the most devastating thing. The rifle sucks.
Sure,
but,
yeah, because of the numbers, yes.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, but as far as doing this to trees, that's a World War I trope. Like that's, or not a trope, but like it's a thing that they adapted from World War One.
They had high explosive
they
in
adapted
the
a lot
American
of this
Civil
shit.
War, though. So I mean, if a high explosive ball hits an oak, I mean, how is it not going to be similar?
Yeah, but it
different
doesn't hit an oak.
millimeters.
It doesn't hit an oak. Like they're trying to portray like the fragments that come out from it as like cutting down trees. That's not accurate for the artillery that they have in this point in time, like 1870 and 1871. It's not. Like it's not. They had HE rounds. They had fucking shrapnel rounds. I know.
The more I think about it, the Germans actually had a breech fire and Krupp gun, which is used brass metallic cartridges. So,
please look that up and tell me what it is.
Yeah, I will. But there was the one thing when I did some research on this is like the French Chassepot rifles were amazing. They were way better than the German rifles, but the German artillery was so devastating that it didn't matter because they were breech loading rifles. So I think that's where the term Krupp steel comes from. Krupp guns. Because they could break.
Krupp steel is, they made shit through World War II. Like they still make.
It was a common term, but I think this is when the term was created.
Probably, I don't know. But no, the artillery, it's not gonna be hitting trees or it's not gonna be like hitting next to people and like cutting down trees like that. Like it takes a lot of fucking fragments to cut down a tree.
But I will say that if you're just talking about like fucking water, if you're just fucking like talking about cannonball, I've seen a cannonball snap a tree in half.
Yeah, but in this film, they're not talking about cannonballs. They're showing like the progression of like fragments hitting a certain spot on a tree, and like I get it, it's your filmmaking, I get that, but like it's just not how that would have actually looked. Like, yeah, it would have fucked at the trees a lot, but like they're really going to a lot of World War I tropes about this shit, like, and they're applying it to the Franco-Prussian War, which is just not accurate as far as artillery. So
that's what I'm saying. Like this was the low point, and like this part right here where this guy just like a foot off camera, just gets randomly
stabs him. That's what I was like. I'm done.
Is that guy just like walking up to him? Yeah, like what was that all about?
What the fuck? Yeah, what are we doing here? Like, really?
Mike B, just in the rifles themselves, I did notice that there was muskets for the Germans, and what I know that's not correct because I think the Germans would have had like
Dreiser rifles.
Like the needle
but they also,
or whatever.
Dude, here's the thing: is like from what I've researched about this fucking war, is the Germans were under-equipped massively. The French had better equipment, but the Germans outmaneuvered them. And like Brian was saying, with artillery and like their maneuvers, like their tactics, they just outmaneuvered them.
It was very interesting. The Germans had incredibly good command and control, and their tactics actually differed from what you'd expect for this time period. The French were very used to fighting in lines and stuff, while the Germans at this point, they would actually promote squad and platoon tactics, firing and attacking from different angles. So they could quickly encircle French units and destroy them, while they would basically trying to figure out what's happened. They would be encircled, kind of similar to what happened on the Eastern Front with the German encirclement operations. But it just came down to better command and control. I mean, you can't get better, officers than Prussians. They're pieces of shit,
Right,
but
yeah.
they'll get you to fucking Paris. So
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, it was very interesting to see, at least for the because uniforms and stuff, like there's no way in hell I know any of that history.
Yeah, me
but,
either. Yeah.
But the weapons, I could tell in a heartbeat that it was one of those things where it's like, all right, well, let's give, Lee Enfields and replace of Henry rifles and hope no one notices. And that's kind of what I feel like the muskets were as well. And I know you said the Germans were under gear.
Yeah, the
and
Germans
stuff
would
and
have
stuff,
they would have been using muskets at this point, along with the Delis rifle.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's so. Yeah, they had like fuck all, and the French Chassepot rifle, like
he has a blue tunic on, that German cavalryman.
no, but it's okay. Go back a little bit, Nate. Like 10 seconds.
Yeah, let's see if I can.
I like too that scene because at least it took me a second. So this is when he falls down.
I
and
did
there's a
I did
battlefield.
find this the one shot of all the
Okay,
dead
that
extras
is a
everywhere.
Prussian blue
Stop.
tunic.
Yeah.
that is a
Yeah.
Prussian. That is what I'm saying is
The
like
black
you
tunic
don't
behind
see
it is
that.
wrong. Yeah.
You don't see that for the rest of the film because they're wearing like Feldgrau, which. And there's some things that like they said in the film I can't remember right now. It'll probably come up in conversation, but like again, they applied a lot of World War One shit to this film, and I can see that. But yeah, the Prussian blue tunic with the red, yeah, that's pretty fucking accurate.
And this is just the scene where he comes out of the woods and it's everyone's dead in the field.
He
so
he
just
falls
everyone
down
has
and he
context.
finds the artillery position that was attacked by the Prussian cavalry, which I really like the scene too. I thought it was very well done.
What I like about this scene is that all of these people, they're dead, but like a number of their horses are just standing around. Like
Yeah.
they didn't get killed, but they have nothing to do now. They have no one to do it to guide them or anything.
I love
They're
the
just-
riderless horses that multiple times as they're like trying to
Yep.
navigate the battlefield. I love that when I originally saw it for the first time in War Horse. I mean, obviously the horses don't die because it's PG-13. But I thought, wow, that's a very interesting, powerful statement. But then I see this and I'm like, fuck, this does it way better.
I did like how the stunt horse moves when he walks in front of it because he spooks it.
Yep.
Even though
Yeah,
it's on the ground.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's.
I didn't think that detracted. There's multiple. Yeah, there's like another one flitches his head and stuff.
That's-
And that's
see,
cool.
but there's a-
it didn't detract it.
No.
It makes sense. It was funny.
Yeah, but see, there's a number of horses just
Yeah.
kind of wandering around now.
What I thought when I saw that, I'm like, they're witnesses to this crazy fucking battle, and they, nothing. Like, let's graze. Like,
They're just gonna eat grass now.
it's better than like a fox being, in a burrow in World War One. Like this is like all quiet in the Western Front. I'd much rather have this portrayal of animals. I like the drum too.
That is something very impressive though of these older movies, especially these TV movies. There are these shots though that they do really, really, really well, where you just see people, in a field,
Yep.
and all of it's real because they don't have the budget to fake it, so they're going to do it for real.
They're gonna have
And
actual people out there.
Yeah, and I think that's also a thing that Sharps Rifles does as well, and
Yep.
does very well.
Those everyone laying down dead are probably all the same extras who were in the battle scene
yeah.
scene just
Yep.
before this.
Yeah.
This is after lunch.
But it's like it looks real though. It's like that's. the
Oh, it
thing,
does.
it's like-
Yeah.
And I love the real horses and everything too. Like how the cavalry react and
Yep,
shit,
yep.
know, and how their helmets are different and the fucking pennants. Like, it's just interesting. It's a lot like Waterloo, but obviously on a quarter or tenth of the budget.
Well, this is my opinion. Like, this is the last war that was fought totally like in the old world. Because if you look at the Spanish-American War, they had modern rifles. Their uniforms were updated and all that shit. They didn't have like the flashy shit. Like they did to an extent, like with the blue trousers and the gold stripes and all that shit. But like, look at his uniform. It's like you got the epaulets on there, the fucking the tassels and shit. Like this was the last war that was actually fought with that like Napoleonic kind of esque flair behind it.
And I
Like
agree,
as far as the uniforms, because then you get into the Spanish-American War, the Russo-Japanese wars, and they started to wear khaki uniforms,
Well,
and it's like, okay, so
I know you guys will know, but do you know the reason that they wore such colorful uniforms?
Yes.
Why?
To be able to identify their own troops versus enemy troops in the haze of smoke, which is black powder.
Yep, command and control, basically. Oh, the Algerians were this, the
Yes.
French, whatever. And as
Yep.
technology advanced, it became where that was stupid. Like when you could
Yeah,
pick
it's
off people at
pointless,
these
yeah.
long, like the American Civil War really pushed that point home, and then Europe, has the Franco-Prussian War, which really pushes
40
that thing home, and it
Well,
still
it took
didn't even
40
happen.
or 50 years, actually. It took 50 years. Well, because not all the militaries in World War One, like the French entered with the really bright colored trousers and the iron gray, or I'm sorry, the iron blue, fucking overcoats, like he's wearing, but like modified. And they did it in 1914, and they were like, "Oh shit," So,
Yeah, it's just so interesting because, this is the real last territorial war in Europe, as far as I know, until 1914, and it's like,
well, this war also heavily impacted and influenced why the Western Front happened in the First World War.
so I'll admit I'm not very good with history before like the Spanish American War. I'm okay with Civil War, so it's like I watched this and I'm like, oh, this is good, like very interesting, and then I did a lot of research and it kind of filled a lot of gaps, to be honest.
Yes,
Like with
it
the whole
does.
Paris
Yep.
thing. It's like I
Yep.
do it generally, but like getting back into it now that I'm have more time for history and stuff. It's like, oh wow, okay, that this is why the bloody sieges in northeastern France happened. This is why France bled themselves dry. This is why the Lebel rifle was made. This is why so many
Right.
things happened because of the stab in the back of Napoleon III.
Yes,
And it's
and
the origin story.
and my honest opinion, like historically looking at it, is I don't think the Western Front would have been nearly as big, if non-existent, as it was if this war would not have happened 50 years before or 40 years before.
It's just interesting to compare the route to advance, and how the Schlieffen Plan was just a modified version of the Prussian or Moltke's plan. I'm not sure of the actual thing for it, the term for it, but it's just and how close they got in 14 to doing the same thing they did in 70,
Right.
and that iron will of the taxi drivers and
Yeah,
everything, as they say.
they just changed the thing. Is they were like, we're gonna go through Belgium this time instead of France, like head on, because and
At
it's
Sedan
always like
again. Sedan is like the fucking linchpin. It's like the Malta of France. Like every major army has to go through Sedan at some point.
right. And yeah, it's very interesting, like, because I was telling Nate, I was like, when I took a World War One class in college, like it was a very in depth, like, cool class. And on the first day, he goes, "All right, you guys want to get into World War One? Okay. Well, we're gonna have to go back about 40 years. We're gonna have to go to the Franco-Prussian War to begin to even become close to understanding how and why this happened." And yeah, that convinced me that, like, if France and Germany wouldn't have had their fucking beef from this war in this film, I don't know if that would have popped off as hard as it would have, or it did. So Nate.
Well, I was gonna say, and when you guys call it, because I think we just need like one person to kind of do it. Someone could give me a cliff note of why the Franco-Prussian War happened, because I researched it, but for people listening, they may not know, and I'd like one of you two to, or even Mike A, whoever wants to take a stab at it, to talk about it.
France was weak under Napoleon III, and Bismarck wanted to unify the rest of the German Catholic states in the southern part of Germany, Bavaria, Baden, and everything, to the Northern German Confederation. Well, that kind of too, yeah. But he really he used the war as a way to really unify Germany. And also, as Mike B said, to take back some of their long lost provinces, Alsace-Lorraine.
But it's a very important one because and then you can go. But like that was a huge province that Germany, or the Prussians, thought was part of the old Holy Roman Empire, and they're German people, but it's a contested state, and so that's why they're fighting in Alsace. So that was a huge fucking factor
It was
that bled into the First World
it
War.
was crazy to hear some of the older women speak in German and be like, oh, you're betraying Emperor Napoleon,
Yep.
like in German. And I thought that was really cool, it just goes to show the area. And that's like, again, where you mentioned earlier, accents come in so handy. And just, they really take this film in a different direction that you wouldn't expect, very, very well done. But it's not the best shot film, obviously, and the quality sucks.
Yeah, they're doing day for night right here.
Yeah, blue lens, but I think there's so many other parts of it that really bring it through. And sound at points being one of them, like the distant cavalry and everything, and even the distant battle noises are pretty good at points.
Like I say, I really
not
like
the jazz track though, but
yeah, that was weird. What was up with the saxophone coming in?
1987.
Right?
That's all I have to say.
I was like, was this added later? Like, what is this?
Did they have Bill Clinton do a cameo? Like, what are we doing here?
I thought it was maybe something that was like added later by the poster or something. Like I didn't understand that at all.
It was like okay for one scene, but they were like in the field, and I'm just like, I don't need like C minor right now. Like I'm good. Let's get to where we're going.
Like I say, I thought the things with the kid and all that paid off fairly well in the end. Although when the kid showed up, I was like kind of rolling my eyes. And like movies there are so many tropes with like kids in movies, and I understand there's like this language barrier between these two guys, between the soldier and the kid. However, one thing that movies usually seem to always do, what I hate when it comes to kids, is that they just don't say anything and they just act like they're brain dead, the entire time. Like children aren't like that in real life, and I'm sick of seeing movies that do that. But so that was one thing about this whole kid thing. I was like, really, we're doing that? But again, I understand there's this language barrier between them, but even so, I think that the kid would maybe still be trying to make an effort to like try to explain to him what's going on. My parents, or I don't know where they are, or something like that. Instead he's just like this brain dead kid who's just meandering
maybe he's
around.
like come and see. Maybe
right?
a German artillery shell land next to it. Oh, also
maybe
for the one scene where they run into like the Alsatians, like running away from the Prussians, I totally got what do you call it, Patriot vibes. Because they're like they're on a ridge over a road, and I'm like, oh no. I'm like, is this where they stole it?
Small, miss
small. Oh my! Don't say
small,
that.
Miss small. Aim small.
But thank God it didn't happen. I was very happy.
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
There were no tomahawks.
Yeah. We'll get there.
Dude, don't talk about the ghost of Kiev like that, all right?
He's melting toy soldiers right now, you fucker. But
These guys are wearing blue.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe it's the quality that made him look really bad at points. But there are guys, like you said, in the black. So.
Yep. Well,
that guy in the back looks like he's wearing black, but maybe it's blue.
It's hard to tell with VHS quality.
I know, right? Like I said, it's like, I'm home from school. It's 1997, and, Ripley's Believe It or Not just ended.
Right, and now this is on.
Yeah. This is, oh, wow.
Or this, it's like you fall asleep watching cartoons, and then you wake up at like 1 a.m. and you're just in the glow of your TV, and
you're
like
just
something
in
like
the Franco-Prussian War. Like,
yeah, something like this is on. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
You're like, what is this?
Yeah, and then you'll never be able to find the name of it for like 35 years.
Right,
and
you thought it was like a fever dream or something.
Yeah, exactly. And then you'll catch a clip of it.
Wait. I have a movie like that, and I'll
We
go
all
into
do.
a spiel. And it was a movie. It was a horror movie, and it was people sneaking on an air. It was like they were in an alternate like universe, and there were these CG monsters that were like meatballs, and they had like
the
teeth.
Langoliers.
The Langoliers, yeah.
The Langoliers.
Is that what that is?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's the Langoliers.
Yeah, I saw that as a kid. Yeah.
I've been trying to find out what movie that is for almost 25
the
years.
Langoliers.
It's the Langoliers.
Dude,
It's
I
based
saw
on a
that-
Stephen King book.
Yeah, I saw it when I was like 10, and then we had to go to Florida or like Disney, and I was like, I don't want to go. Like, fucking, I don't
It
want
was
to fly.
in like the middle of the night, and I don't remember.
They eat time.
It was
the
like
CGI is horrible.
It
right?
really is bad. Yeah.
oh my god,
Yeah.
Now they're gonna eat me. Like
Yeah.
that was the kind of quality. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
Bronson Pinchot was in it from Bronson Pinchot from.
I
Perfect
can't believe
Strangers.
both of you knew what that was. I've been
Yeah.
trying to find that. I type
I've
in like
watched it a lot.
meatballs. I type in like meatballs airport, and I never get anything.
This is why you.
And I'm
well,
like-
I wonder why. Come down to Sbarro at Queens. Here at JFK, we got a C rating for food, but we got good meatballs. So
Yeah, that's the Langoliers. That's directed by Tom Holland, not the Spider-Man Tom Holland, but Tom Holland, the man who did the horrible Stephen King adaptations. He also did Thinner. He also did that one.
Oh,
if you're-
God.
Yeah.
damn,
So yeah, the Langoliers, Nate.
Oh, okay.
that's funny. But
Mike B, do you have one off the top of your head that you remember as like a kid you never knew? You and I share the
I
same
have
kind
one
of childhood
as
of
well.
being like in the front of the TV.
I'll
Yeah.
share mine quick. So I had a lot of insomnia as a kid, so I would just like watch movies, a lot of TCM and things, and that's where I think a lot of my love for films comes from. But I remember once I was watching a film I didn't catch the name of, and I still can't find it, but it's really cool. It's a silent film from the 20s, and it's about a Marine fighting in Nicaragua and Haiti, and like he's sent to like South Pacific for a while, and it's just really horrible, rough living, but it's very period to the Marine Corps and stuff. And I've been trying to find it, but I just have not. But it's like literally a Bananas War film from like 1927. It's fucking really cool. And it's very well done too. The Marines they got campaign hats that look exactly as they should. So that's mine.
Well, if anyone knows what it is, leave leave a comment or something for Brian to solve his almost 30-year-old mystery here.
Mine I actually later in life found out what it was, and
Using Shazam.
No, but it was just from like people I follow on the internet. I discovered it, and I was like, I thought I fucking dreamed that movie. And that was this when I was a kid. I once saw on the Sci-Fi Network this like crazy early '90s drug fueled thing about people at a freak show, and just like MTV to the max, stop motion claymation, just crazy. And I later found out it was called Freaked from 1993, and it was made by what's his name, the guy who did Bill and Ted.
I'm gonna look that up.
Yeah.
Oh, so like, yeah. So if it's like
It's-
Bill and Ted Goes to Hell, it's that kind of freakiness,
Right,
too,
made by the guy who, not Keanu Reeves, but the other guy.
You said it's called Freak.
It's called Freaked from 1993, and it is like a fucking trip. And I learned that it was had this. Yes, just from looking at it, like
Wow.
I found out that it would have this huge budget, but like no one knew what the fuck to do with it when it came out, so they just released it on VHS. But it had
solid,
this
yeah.
humongous budget, so like the effects and all of the makeup are just insane.
It's shot really
in
well.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, but I remember seeing that on TV, and I was like, I must be like, tripping or something, because it is fucking crazy. And then later in life, it came to my mind. I'm like, what the hell was that?
It's
And I
like
looked up, I was
Dead
it's called
Alive, but with a
Freaked.
lot more funding.
Yeah,
It's got William Sadler in it too.
right.
That's crazy.
Wow.
He gets dissolved and turned into a giant shoe at the end.
Spoilers.
I'm telling you, it's a trip. Like when you
That's
watch it.
it.
Hold on, Langoliers.
If you happen to have like a strip of acid and it's
Meatballs.
Friday night and you want to watch a great movie, go watch Freaked.
Freaked, man.
Okay,
Watch
if you-
Freaked and then do a double feature with the Langoliers.
If you type in Langolier meatballs, you just get meatballs on Google.
No.
Oh no.
Some like Italian guy throw meatballs at a camera.
The
Yeah.
Langolier. There's a TV series.
Yeah, it's like a 2-episode thing. It's like a little
Yeah.
mini series.
What?
I think I saw it on like HBO or something.
Yeah, with Bronson Pinchot screaming like a madman. Stephen King makes a guest appearance at the end.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
You're welcome.
Oh my god. It's just as awful as I remember.
They're eating the airport as they fly away.
They're eating through the suit.
Yeah.
They have to fly through a giant thing in space.
Well,
which
they'll
looks like
run
a
the
space vagina.
CG, the CG
I think it
runway.
was-
We're so off topic right now, but the CG runway is so bad.
I think
It's
it was
bad, yeah.
kind of, and
Yeah.
I don't want to say because it's Stephen King, but there's a really good Twilight Zone episode where these people are flying from London to New York. Have you guys heard of this? And they they hit this ton of turbulence, and then they can't reach JFK, and then they fly around Manhattan Island, and there's dinosaurs on it. like, oh fuck, and somehow they flew back to like,
Oh, I remember that,
And
but I don't have any idea what it
they
is.
they fly back to, you know,
The Odyssey of
prehistoric
Flight
times.
33.
I don't know. I honestly had no idea what the episode's named. I'll have to look it up.
But
But they
if it
fly.
turned into the dinosaur sitcom TV show.
Well, but they fly.
The baby gotta love me.
They see like a Bronchofucking-saurus, like, you know, on Manhattan Island. They're like, oh shit. So they fly back.
Bronco fucking sorry.
And
Bronchosaurus.
they try to fly back like through the vortex, and they do.
Jesus Christ.
And they go through the turbulence and everything, right? And they
Right.
go back to New York, and they get a call sign, but it's 1947, and they're in a plane that can't land on the runway because it's too short. So like, it's this crazy fucking just conundrum, and it ends with like, and they're trying to fly back to see if they'll get closer to their time and everything, but just talking about like
Bronco
Langoliers
fucking
kind of
Saurus.
thing.
Bronchosaurus. That should be the name of a band or something. But
Put it on a t-shirt.
There's some bronchial issues here. It's not a big deal.
I got the fucking bronchitis.
so
Water
So
in
to
my lungs.
to complete the circle here, Mike, do you have a movie that you're when you saw years ago? You're like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, I still don't know the name of it. I learned it. I learned it a couple years ago, and then I'll describe it.
Yeah.
So they're on an aircraft carrier, and it's modern, and then they go back to like World War II days, and they capture
Final Countdown.
like a.
The Final Countdown from 1982.
Okay.
It's got
keep explaining it. Keep
no, it's
explaining
got
it.
fucking
I
Charlie
wanna know
Sheen
what
in
it
it.
is.
Yeah. It's got
I don't fucking remember it. It was when I was a kid. I was like, I didn't give a fuck what Tiger Blood was when I was like fucking 7 years old.
Yeah, they fly.
I didn't fucking
They
care.
go back in time and they end up right outside Pearl Harbor like the day before the attack, and they don't know what to do. And they're like, "You have an F-14 fighter wing. Will you find the Japs?" And they don't do anything.
Right, and like, but it's like through this like wormhole in the Pacific. Like
Yeah.
they
Yep.
go
So-
in and like they
It's not. It's no. Sorry, because I know the movie now. Now that you're talking about it, because I remember seeing this. It's not Charlie Sheen. It's Martin Sheen, his father. He's the
Oh,
one who's
okay.
in it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew there was
And
Sheen in it.
Kirk Douglas like is the star of it.
Yes.
I don't know.
that
I
makes
don't,
a hell of a difference.
I
yeah.
don't know what. I don't know what's worse: the fact that that's a movie, or the fact that Brian knew exactly what you were talking about.
Yeah.
Which is really
Well, as soon as I said they took out Japanese POWs, he was like, "Yep, bam," and I'm like, because the one guy escapes and the Japanese guy grabs an M16A2,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Fucking, you know, oh, I'll shoot you guys, whatever." He doesn't know how to work it, but like he's got a gun.
It's like one of those time
yeah.
warp movies, you know. And again,
Right, and I actually love that shit. I would love to like.
so
Why don't
Fucking
we,
do
why don't
shit.
we-
we'll
why
get
don't we
back
watch
to the
that?
we'll get
Why
back to
don't
the
we
Frank
watch that?
we'll get back to the Franco-Prussian War. We can as a spoof. But the last thing, my favorite Twilight Zone episode of all times is these guys they're in a Stewart tank and they're on maneuvers, and they again end up going through something.
Oh, and they
end up at the Battle of Little Bighorn.
Yeah,
And,
with the
oh,
wigwam.
it's-
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so good. One of them like gets
In a
killed.
Stewart.
Yeah, but they run out of gas, and one of them gets killed. He gets an arrow through him, and the other two guys at the end of the episode, well, fuck it, and they get carbines out of the thing, and they
Yeah,
follow.
they're like, fuck it, we're gonna
they
do
go to
this.
the
And at the
cavalry.
very end, when they have the monument for Little Bighorn, their names are on it.
Yeah, you have their graves, but that's my favorite one, But and I always
That's interesting, yeah, because yes, if you go back in time, that's cool. You have an MG42 in the Rev War, cool.
that
you
was the
gonna
one
feed that
complaint.
thing?
Like fucking
Yeah.
dude, I would totally strip the tank. Fuck, there's 42 250 round ammo cans in there. If you know where you're fucking going, you can fucking inflict history. What 2 Brownings
Yes,
and
so
like
you're gonna carry that on foot.
Brian,
Dude,
the
you get a
TV
fucking stick.
The,
You can carry,
the
like, at
TV
least
production.
3,000
The TV
rounds.
production did not have. They could not get those guns. I guarantee.
they're built
you
into the stirrup. I understand, but like
They
again,
were not there.
2 pins, coax gun, fucking okay. You got
were
Winchester.
lucky.
I got a Browning.
You're gonna hump
Let's
that
go.
shit. You're just gonna hump that shit on a prairie, which I don't know if you've ever been on a prairie where it's literally a desert with like 3 feet of grass. It's
You can
not
always
good.
abandon it.
And like
You can always drop it.
you're gonna walk for about 3 miles, and then you're gonna be like, "Oh fuck, we're dead."
Yeah, well, they never
we're-
did that during the Second World War, at all. Can't carry a Browning over terrain.
You should look at the Dakotas sometime. You should.
I'm pulling up IMFDB real quick. Hold on.
Oh,
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
I forgot we were
get to
talking
it.
about a movie. Yeah.
So anyway, we're going back in time to the Franco-Prussian War this week.
Obviously,
We're
we
just shooting
wanna
the shit
talk
at this point.
We want to talk about anything but this fucking movie. So.
As Nate brings it up though, I'll say some cool things about the Franco-Prussian War.
Shockingly, there was one for this movie. I didn't think there was.
Yeah, I was surprised to see
I'm
it too.
surprised too. Yeah.
So
This is fucking interesting. Really quick, I'm looking at it already. The Gra model 1874. Well, what year did the Franco-Prussian War take place?
1870.
71.
Okay. Continue. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't going fucking totally insane.
Yeah.
All right.
This was the first war they actually took a photo of combat during. Like they actually had both sides. There's a guy on a hill nearby, so it was kind of interesting.
What you mean, like in real life?
As they were fighting, he actually took a photo, and it's the first photo actually ever in combat, and it's like German troops advancing on French troops.
Can you find that?
Yeah.
Yeah, why don't you find it and fucking we'll put you on the stream.
I just imagine how
'Cause
fucking blurry that
cool.
might be because of how long
Well,
it would
blurry
take.
and boring. Like it's like it's gonna be like a bunch of shit.
First
It's like
combat picture.
because combat's not as cool as people think it is on film.
No.
Like it's like when you capture it, it's just gonna be guys like walking.
It's-
But
I found it.
all right, you found it, Nate.
I think so. I just have to. I'm gonna just.
Yeah.
do my
Oh
window.
shit, yeah.
I'm
Got
just
a
gonna do
big
my
ass
window.
handprint on the upper right part of it.
The
See
guy was
that?
Well, Sedan was surrounded.
They're also
and,
marching these guys in formation down a fucking road.
Yep.
How fucking retarded? Well, they actually did it in the First World War as well. Mm-hmm. At Mons, like the first big battle between the Germans and the Brits.
Yeah, look at the
Same
house on the
shit.
right. It's got fucking holes all around it. Like that's
Yeah.
crazy.
It's an interesting side bit, because it's looking at the 19th century, the Crimean War, which is about 15 years before this. That's where like war correspondence becomes huge. That's where like
That's
the borders
also
on the
a very
front
important
becomes
war.
Yeah.
So the Crimean War and the Franco-Prussian War are literally catalysts of why the First World War happened. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's fucking insane. We'll do that on a different.
You all got
podcast.
to. Oh yeah. We'll eventually do the Charge of Light Brigade. So Sean wants to join us for that. So that'll be really cool. We can touch on Crimea and everything. And,
Yeah. So in this picture, right? I know you guys can't see it that are listening. There's two rows of guys.
I'm probably
three,
gonna.
three
I'm
rows
gonna,
of guys.
I'm gonna, at least I'll have it up for YouTube, hopefully. So.
yeah, we'll link
Okay,
it in the
so
description.
there's three rows of guys in a field that's overlooking like a small village. There is a formation, like very tightly fucking marching.
It's like a company.
Like it's at least a company. Yeah, that's at least 100 guys.
And there's fucking people
Right.
in the road who are dead.
Yeah.
Right, and they're just marching forward because there's their officer presumably like on the horse behind them. And it's like, what the fuck is going on here? And so I would assume that, so these are Germans, right? Or Prussians, rather?
Yes.
I'm sorry,
If
Prussians.
actually, now I notice it. So if you look down the road, even there's another company coming, a Titan formation. Look at that. So there's two
yeah.
companies on the road, and you get two lines of skirmishers
Jesus
out front.
Christ.
Like right there.
Yeah.
And the whole bunch
I
of
bet you there's another
what a
company behind that house.
What a fucking slaughter.
there's people just laying on the road, like probably just got hit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is what's crazy,
What
you
a-
know, because
What a fucking
like we're talking about
slaughter. Like,
context
I
and
mean,
everything.
Yeah.
Because I'm
Yeah.
working on this crazy documentary about like combat correspondent and stuff. So when I came over this, I'm like, oh, it's fucking interesting. So 1850s, you have the first war correspondence. Then 1870s, well, you have a lot of photography in the American Civil War, but that's after the fact. You know, that's of bodies and
Yeah.
everything. But 1870, bam, you have your first combat. You know, your photo taken under fire, literally, and it's just fucking crazy.
And the
This
person,
is astounding, though.
Yeah,
the
this is
person
30
who developed it has their handprint. I don't know if you can
Yeah.
see that on the upper
Yeah, the
right
thumbprint.
part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
That's their palm. I can see. Yeah, that's the palm print.
What's crazy is this is 35 or 40 years after the first photograph is taken. The 1820s is when the first surviving original photograph we have is different. It's not. It's a different style of photograph, but the first one exists. It's
And
like
you can tell this is common because some of the guys are blurry, but like, well, that must have been like the top of the line fucking camera that they could have had back then. And I'm not a photography expert, but like, because this thing is like, these guys are actually in motion. This is not a training event. You can see
Cameras of the time.
unless
Look at this guy.
Oh,
Look at this guy.
Full Wilhelm
one?
screen
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah.
so yes, okay, different fucking perspective and thoughts on this right now. What if this is actually after the fact? Because that first company, we don't know where they're facing. They probably wouldn't march guys 100 yards away from each other with the modern day rifles that they had. What if this is right after a battle? These guys are pulling security on the town and the houses they just got shot at from, and then they're marching one company, two companies, 100 yards apart, forward. And that's actually a German company.
That might make sense because the house on the right, in the far foreground, the closest thing to us, is just riddled with bullets.
It's fucked up. Yeah,
This
it's like,
could be the
yeah.
front line, and these guys are coming in to reinforce them too.
It's hard to say.
Like,
you know?
it could have been the front line, and then they just won this battle. The French retreated, and then they're like, no, all the jokes
But
about
there's-
the French retreat.
But
Like,
there's all these mid motion things, so it makes me think. And look, they're facing at the camera, so this actually looks like they're firing at the camera. So this looks like these are guys who are.
There's also
supplying
a
these
horse
guys
at the
here.
head of the column.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the road
And,
right
and,
there.
but it's because of this T-pose guy right here who looks like he's been hit.
It
or
almost
something.
looks
I
like
don't know.
there's two officers talking about what to do as the men fight in the middle of the road in front of that first company.
it looks like
I
these
guess,
guys are
yeah.
just like they just fought their fight, right? They were engaged, right? And they survived. And I mean, obviously, it's very close to a battle. It's just how far away was it? Like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes.
Yeah,
30 minutes.
it's interesting to say.
You know? So yeah,
And,
yeah,
you
Nate,
know,
you definitely have to put this on.
If you look in the back
Yeah,
hills
yeah,
too,
yeah.
you see all
I
that
got it.
smoke,
Yeah, I was just going to
black
mention
powder.
that,
That's from their artillery.
Yeah,
And actually, there in the foreground there is a good deal of in the wheat field. I mean, it could be knocked down from guys marching, but a good deal of.
that's not a wheat field. That's actually
barley.
a garden.
Oh, okay.
They're growing they're growing cabbages, turnips, and other shit there. Yeah, it's in rows. It's not like a like the thing in the very foreground might be, but again, wheat fields they would have fucking they'd been
the non-road field, center of left frame.
dude. We should fucking do this again. We used to do this shit on my live streams on YouTube.
Yeah.
Is like we just analyze fucking historic photographs.
I love doing that shit.
You got another one. But
Well,
it's,
yeah, we should start doing that again. Like, yeah, okay, but like, idea. We'll talk about that after the podcast.
Yeah,
but like,
yeah.
no, but because this is something that like, okay, we have this presupposed kind of idea of what this should be, right? Mm-hmm. It's combat footage, right? But there's guys laying down. There's guys kind of sitting down. There's the T guy, just going, woo, shit, fuck.
always a
doing this thing
T-pose
like
guy.
But
Always.
after a firefight, hey, fuck, anything goes. But then they're marching two companies, which looks like they're marching two companies down this fucking road, which means it looks like they just took this little farm area. Mm-hmm. And these are the guys on the line that would have been duking it out with these guys, which is shitty. If you're out in the open, you're getting hit from a house that's like a huge position of cover. Not good. And so these guys might have just fucking been like relaxing, going, well, fuck.
From the caption,
beat it
this was
back.
a French photographer standing on the French front bastions, looking at the Germans advancing. So
Okay.
That's what it says.
And
that's what it says. Yeah, and so all that fire on that first house could just be,
Hey
defensive
Nate,
fire.
can you possibly zoom in? I know it's gonna get grainy, but like, can
Yeah.
you zoom in on the guys that are in the foreground,
I'm
like
trying
really
to-
close to
I'm
us?
trying to remember.
Oh,
what the
there's
Hang
more.
on.
shortcut is
That's
to that.
it's the first of a series of photos.
well, I mean,
Yeah, we'll get to that. I just want to see.
But one shows
gonna-
his position
really quick.
from another angle.
I'm going to do an image search on this and see if I can find maximum, like, high quality versions of it.
Yeah, because this is actually important for like our review on the film. Is like, we know the combat was fucked up. It was insane. Okay, so
Holy shit. He fell back from that position because it was overran. There's 3 photos. So you guys have seen the first one. I'll send the second one.
Oh shit, that's way far back. Okay.
Yeah, so look,
they're
watch.
shooting down right.
Here's
on
that
the
image
thing.
cropped. Ready? He's falling
Yeah.
back. So
Oh fuck yeah!
they
The
took
house
that
right up
position.
there.
There's
Yeah,
the house.
the house,
There's
the
that
house, and
field.
okay. So see, way back there, the company is much farther back in this photo.
That's probably
Oh,
the second
shit,
company now
so-
advancing.
Dude,
Yeah.
dude, what this was is it was probably like, from what I surmised from the photos. Obviously, we don't know.
They
but,
lost
like,
their position.
they got up there. They thought they could just march in because look at the amount of fucking bodies on the road compared to before.
And in the
Okay.
field too.
They might have just marched them in there like they did in World War One. The Germans did this in World War One. The Prussians did that, I'm sure. Then they got cocky and they're like, "We're marching in formation because this is our fucking territory," and they got picked the fuck off, and then they got pissed, and then it kind of scattered.
Holy
right?
shit. Okay. This is why I love.
Yeah.
I can't say this term that I love, but I love the internet sometimes. Look at this. Here's the location
got?
it happened at. Somebody's mapped
Oh
it out.
damn. Yeah,
The house still exists.
that house is still there. Fuck.
Wow.
Second line, first line, column.
And here's the last
Nice.
photo.
Okay.
It's very similar to the second.
I know you guys that are listening to this, like you guys
We'll
are gonna be
link
like,
it all. Yeah,
oh
yeah,
shit!
right.
And Nate's got to work on this one for this kind of. We should definitely. This is so fucking cool
Yeah, no,
because
I'll sync it with everything. I just gotta-
dude, it's one of the first photographed scenes of combat, and it's like, I fucking love this because we have to figure out what the fuck is going on
Yeah,
here.
it's like solving
You
a
know?
crime or a mystery or something.
Yeah.
Right.
But they were
It's like
they were
we-
definitely pushed back from that position.
Oh shit! So this guy is a French photographer.
He was a French photographer standing with the defenders, and he took the first one as the Germans advanced, and the second one as they were pushed back, and the third one, obviously as they were being routed.
Yeah, this is fucking.
Well, it's real history, And this is like,
It's really cool to like look at this and be like, what the fuck was going on here? Because the picture says 1,000 words. Okay, no, it says more than 1,000 fucking words. It's like, well, what the fuck actually happened at this battle? Because it looks like a modern battle, except they're in line formation
my
because of their weaponry.
my
So-
connection to history has always been the human touch, dates and places, whatever, but
Yeah.
like just getting
They're written down for a reason.
getting
yeah.
the human connection to Waterloo or the Somme or whatever is just what I find interesting, because then you can really put yourself in those shoes. So something like this is just really, really cool because you could literally watch it pan out in front of you and you could get the human connection. Here's 30 dudes shooting at 30 dudes. Fucking somebody's gonna get hit.
Do you notice the dude up in the window on this one?
Oh yeah, you're right. And
Dude, he's up in the window.
And I just noticed the other skirmish line to the right of the house in that field.
Shit, man, fucking A. Like
I think this is a wider version of the one you're looking at now.
and they're
It-
still
it is.
lining up. They're still fucking lining up.
Mm-hmm.
Like they did in the 19th century. They're still, and they did it in World War One at the beginning.
Yeah.
They're still lining up. That's how warfare is done. And then a couple guys are getting into the house, helping him up there. Oh yeah, you're a better shot than us. Yeah, guys that are listening, like Nate's gonna be a real gent and like
Nate,
show this
Jamie, you should cut this out into its own video.
Jimmy, pull it up.
Put the image in there.
Just like make sure this gets in there. Make sure this gets in there.
Put a Canadian
It's a real world
bobblehead
thing.
of like Mike B. Like, wow, we're talking about.
They were trying the frogs gay even in the 1870s. That's what I'm telling you. It's been a globalist conspiracy since then.
Did you approve him or?
No, 1 second. I'm doing it right now.
He hasn't done it yet. But like, no, this is we should fucking do this.
We should.
So-
Yeah, I love this shit. So this is the first
It's
one.
fucking
Yeah.
yeah.
So this is the
Yep,
first
you can see
one.
the two like companies marching down that road.
Right,
Yep.
right in here, and then the second one, not the best quality, but
Yeah.
and
I
then
think he was taking this rushed because they're.
and then we'll see like there's just some guys right here. Then the third one, you see there's like more dead people around here.
and I think
Yeah,
there's
so
more
they're getting
flanking
their
that
shit
right.
shoved in.
That field.
Yep.
Yep, they're getting their shit shoved in, and they know it, but they're not going to retreat. But like, yeah, it's fucking
Fucking crazy,
That's
man.
fucking insane. It's
Yeah.
insanity.
Yeah.
You know,
See, like
it's
there
insanity.
are not that many guys here, and then the next one there's a whole bunch of guys here.
Yep. They're using the ditch along.
Yeah,
the
they're
side
up
of the
on
road.
they're up on the fucking little fence.
The fire
along
probably
road,
got
yeah.
so crazy. Right before this, the two officers are conferring. Oh, what are we gonna do? And the next thing you know, they broke up their company and sent the men one through the field on
Yeah,
the right,
all
and
of
the
a
other one
sudden,
up the ditch.
rounds start hitting near them, and then
Yep.
they go, "Oh fuck, we gotta get back."
I think the second one. Let's go back to that, Michael.
Yeah.
I love the puff. You could really see the shooting in this photo.
Oh yeah, just
Even for the woods in the
Oh,
background
yeah.
too.
yeah.
Like all
Look
the
at all this
random
shit. Look at this right here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and those guys, like, so those rifles, like, they're accurate, but like they're not fucking smokeless powder like LaBelle accurate, right? These guys are like being ordered to shoot a volley, but they're like, what the fuck are we shooting at? We're just trying to keep their heads down. And the Germans, if these guys are French, which I think they are because I've seen kepis and I'm looking really close.
I see black powder smoke in both directions.
No, that's what I
So,
mean.
like-
But that's what I mean. Like, it's these guys are. It's literally like you're just lobbing fucking rounds at each other. It's not super accurate because that's probably about 1, 2, 3, 4. That's probably about 400 to 500 yards or meters, approximately 600 meters. That's a long distance, right? Mm-hmm. And that's kind of like the shit that they were counting on in the First World War at the beginning. They're like, well, we fought wars before where 600 meters, yeah, we could just line up in a line formation and volley fire, and we would get some hits. It was like, well, now you can actually aim and you can actually hit your target at 600 fucking meters. And so, let's spread it out more. Well, fuck, we're taking a lot of casualties. Let's dig in. And like, again, this is why, like, yeah, this is fucking awesome photography, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just love how the first one's like manicured and nice. Oh, they're coming. The officers are conferring. We're coming at the road.
go
And
back
then the
really
next
quick.
one,
Go
it's
back.
rushed, and the third one is even more rushed.
So look at the dudes in the field right here. Like
here?
fucking no, on the left.
Okay.
On the left in the field. Those guys are running back.
It looks like they're running to the ditch, left to right.
Well, they're running back. They're not. They're running away from the fire.
There's guys dead on the road all the way up too. If you look at that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And yeah, I know. And there's guys dead in the field right where they're at. These guys are running back, trying to reposition or something. I just noticed that. Like, it's like, yeah. So something went heinously fucking wrong in this battle. So
It's crazy.
That guy, someone's dead right there, and then the next, see, the next
yep.
bodies are still there, but the line is completely gone.
Yep.
And there's just those three. There are no more.
That's all the ones I could find. Yeah.
Okay.
No,
I
it's
mean,
fucking awesome though. Like, that's a great fucking set of images.
he's lucky to get those three, And,
Oh man, because he was getting shot at too. Like, that's the thing is,
Yeah.
like, he was taking fire, and
with those old
God
cameras
damn.
back then, yeah, I'd like to set that up and
yeah, he's sitting there setting it up and like getting the shot, and all of a sudden,
yeah.
rounds fucking impacting. It's like, well, how long do I stay here? Get the shot.
Very may well be the only photographs of real line formation combat in existence.
That's what the description says.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That I wouldn't disagree with.
No.
unless
Well,
I've seen.
we were saying earlier, it's like the last territorial war in Europe, and it was just. At
And,
the
and what you
time
said
where-
was with the American Civil War, it was like after the fact. It was like, it was after the fact, and it was like, okay, we're showing the bodies, which is really fucked up, and people actually were able to see those. Not a lot of people, but like some people were able to see, like, this is what a battlefield looks like after the battle's over, and there's just a million dead fucking bodies, and then you get pictures of generals and people, whatever. Okay, but this is actual combat footage,
The first of the
which is
combat
fucking
footage.
nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
Not bodies, not aftermath. This is as it occurred.
This is-
That's
see,
really fucking impressive.
I could stare at these for hours and hours.
I love the name too, Battle of Sedan.
Yeah.
Like, it's just matter of
Yeah.
fact. Like, yeah, okay, here are the Germans. They arrived. Whoops, like.
Well, I'm gonna save all these photos and then look at them all in more detail later.
yeah,
Nice.
yeah. It's that's fucking amazing.
That's really cool.
And so, to tie it back to you guys that are listening and you've watched, and Nate's going to be very fucking kind and put those in the
The YouTubes.
Yeah.
the YouTubes.
I'll link the photos in the
Yep.
podcast form as well. If you're
Yeah, dude, it's all good.
just don't look at the photos while you drive. You heathens.
We're gonna say that after
Yeah,
we talk about the photos.
But I would encourage you guys, like that are listening, if you're still listening
pull
to this
into
point,
a text stop.
yeah, you should definitely look at those photos because even though they're like, to nowadays standards, like shitty quality, blah, 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 it does tell a story about because that was probably like 2 or 3 hours if you think about it. Like it took a long time. And that battle shifted that quickly and they've got that on film. Fucking amazing. It's impressive.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's go through IMFDB. Fuck you, Nate. Don't fucking laugh at me, you piece of shit.
That's IMFDB. There is actually one for this movie, shockingly.
Yeah.
Only like 3, but we at least do it. So
it's not a GRA model 1874, even though that's what they use in the film.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give them that with the bayonet. Actually, they don't have the correct bayonet either. The Chassepot 1866 rifles are what they would have been using. Yeah, okay, so they just say, oh my God. I'm reading this and I'm like, I'm a fucking know-it-all snob piece of shit. Yes. So, but okay, so the GRA model 1874 is going to be easier to get, and I get that. So,
Oh, for sure. And for blanks and everything too.
Was the bayonet
Exactly.
was the bayonet at least correct for the GRA?
no.
Okay.
Well, for the GRA, yes. But they
that's what I mean,
they actually use Chassepot bayonets, the curved
really?
ones.
Oh,
The
yeah.
I love the
Scimitar,
curved
like-
bayonets. That was cool.
I saw when he put it in, it was like pointed down.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
it
well,
was
it curves. It's like a Chassepot bayonet it's a nasty motherfucker.
Mm-hmm.
It really is, and they actually use those through the First World War, which is
Do you-
insane.
do you-
They're very
have
interesting
one?
guns. Sean has one actually.
Yeah, Sean does
Chassepot
have
or
one.
GRA?
I think Shoss.
Chassepot. Yeah.
He pointed that bayonet at me when I visited him the other day.
Yeah, they're really fucking. But they were also like they could fit under the fucking GRA. That's
It's
the
cool
thing.
to
It's
see
like-
them in mass. You know.
Yeah. Well, they had the gear. Like again, I can't comment on that. I don't know the uniforms or the gear.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, they were side-mounted bayonets.
Imagine
And
the
that
whole
actually
film was
makes
that quality.
dude. Right.
Yeah, it would have been.
But it makes a lot of sense to be a side-mounted bayonet.
Yeah.
And the Germans did that through the 1888 commission rifle, and then they went with the bottom-mounted bayonets, which this makes more sense because it can go between ribs a lot easier if it's side-mounted.
Really.
But
Oh, that makes sense.
I mean, not to
Well-
get fucking grotesque, but
Well,
Well,
Brian,
but it's
the
make a lot of
ribs.
sense.
Brian, the ribs are horizontal. The blade is vertical.
What? What's the joke? Attention results,
Oh yeah.
oh well, yeah,
yeah.
that's very fun.
you know. But
Yep. But no, it actually for actual like stabbing a fucking human right with a bayonet. If you have a side-mounted blade bayonet like that, it's gonna be a lot easier to pull it out of your target if you hit a rib. Because if you had the later bottom-mounted bayonet and it's vertical, it's gonna stick in there and it's gonna cause you to have to pull it out.
As fucked up as that sounds, that does come up a lot in memoirs. I was just reading a really good memoir about Pacific called Devil Dogs. Follows one company from the canal all the way to Okinawa, and there's a store in the canal. A guy got his fucking bayonet stuck in a Jap, and he had to shoot it off. You know,
Yeah.
It's as
Well,
crazy. and
shooting it
stupid
off,
as it
that's
sounds.
also a trope.
Oh, it could be true.
He
but
might have wrote that.
that's what this-
He might have wrote that in his memoir.
That's
If
what this
you shoot- if you-
18-year-old kid tried to do.
Dude, yeah. If you fucking stab somebody and then you shoot, it's not going to do a fucking thing to be able to pull the bayonet out.
I understand.
It
but
might-
if you're panicked, whatever. But
Hey,
it
it
does
looks-
happen.
it looks-
It's
very
all
interesting.
about how you remember it, right?
Yeah.
It's all about how you remember it and write it down. But no, realistically though, I've done experiments not on people, of course.
You used to drive around
But,
Milwaukee, just stab
Well,
people.
I'm 5 hours away from Milwaukee, so yeah.
I'm
27
stabbing.
to
I'm
my heart.
stabbing bundles of trash, and one screamed.
But no, a side-mounted bayonet
Okay,
like
Mr.
that
Dahmer.
makes a lot of sense. But it when you're actually shooting a rifle that can hit 600 yards, that fucking thing does get unwieldy, and it's just whatever. But they figured that out later. But it does. It's actually a better concept than the later undermounted.
I love how he loses his rifle in the movie. I thought that was
Yep.
really well done and very cool, and just how he
Yeah, because he thinks about going back for it.
he
He's
just gives
like,
up.
Fuck
Yeah,
it.
he's like, yeah, it's
He's
so
like,
human.
Fuck it.
You know,
Yep.
like
fuck it.
well,
Yep.
shit.
Yeah, it gets
Well,
caught
also,
like that.
he doesn't have his fucking cartridge belt.
Well, yeah. What are you gonna do?
He fired his shot at that guy, right?
Yep.
That thing's a fucking worthless piece of shit. It's a
Well, it's a
fucking
spear.
it's a pike. It's a pike at that point. Like, yeah, but like, I mean, these other guys have rifles. A pike versus a rifle? No, it's gonna weigh you down. And that was a cool, like, quick human decision, like you're saying, of like, fuck it.
Yeah, shit. Bad luck.
So I'm gonna click on the real rifle that you said they should have.
Yep.
So they did have
Yes.
cartridges for that though. So there's a cartridge.
No.
It uses
They're-
paper cartridges actually.
Yep. It's a paper cartridge.
Oh.
The idea was
it's
is that
really fucking unreliable.
any
Like, yeah.
the idea was why they were paper is because they were worried about having a problem with getting metallic cartridges, and paper cartridges could be made in any town in France. So that was the idea. So it was like anybody can make ammunition. So that's why they didn't go to metallic cartridges until a bit later.
So did it have a magazine or was it a one fire?
No,
thing?
one
shot.
shot.
So that's
You
what
could
mean
fi-
by- That's why I asked because he said he had one shot, and I was
It's-
like,
It's black powder, and you had to reload every time. And it was about 15 rounds before you couldn't close the bolt due to black powder fouling, and you had to
Yep.
change it out. And after about 60 to 100 rounds, I'm not exactly sure, you had to change the front of the bolt face because it would wear out through all the shooting. So in a in a battle, you go through a cartridge,
fucking
box.
worthless
You got to
is that?
reload. Dude, it's 1870. It's better than a musket. It's not a muzzle
Yeah.
loader.
yeah,
It is.
is
You can shoot a
cutting
lot
edge.
faster.
This is cutting edge technology. Like
Yep.
the Germans
But
have good
would you-
artillery in the war, and the French have great rifles. That's what they walk away with.
But then would you like what? Would you carry a spare bolt?
Yeah, you had spare bolt heads. They're cork or rubber, and they just pop off. They're very easy
Oh.
to replace. It's a needle gun.
Oh, I'm picturing. Oh, okay. I was picturing like a whole new bolt because it said it got
No.
Just the front.
But yeah.
So
yeah.
like
okay.
imagine what's a good example that you'd understand? Nothing really modern. Like a Lee Enfield. You know how like the front of it screws off,
Yeah.
so you could change it to like different.
Yeah.
What do you call it? Headspace.
Yeah.
Same thing. So imagine after every 60 rounds, you unscrew that, and put a new one on.
But didn't the Dreisil?
It's different. That's the German one.
Yeah, that didn't have like a cork or anything like that. Wasn't it?
It had a
pure metal bolt
similar,
head?
but it was worse. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like a very thin.
Chasse
thin
pot-
it was like a thin firing
Chasse pot.
pin needle thing.
And the Dreisil, yeah, they're both needle guns. They're very similar, but the Dreisil's a lot older, and it was more antiquated design, especially with the ammunition. The Chasse pot was, 4 years old. It was very new, and it was not really proven in combat. The Dreisil's
Yep.
day was really the early 1860s. There were a few battles the Prussians had against the Austrians where they fucking ruined them. I think 1866 there was a really big one, and that kind of that I think influenced the Chasse pot's development. They're like, oh shit, well fucking look what they just did to them. We got to advance.
Yeah.
The French have always had really good cutting-edge infantry rifles at the beginning of their wars. Lebel, a little antiquated, but still great for what it was.
Well, here's the thing: is the French, in my opinion, like what I've observed, is like they're either 20 years late or 20 years early.
It's a good way to put it. Yeah.
And they-
either
and they-
one fucks them.
Well, yeah, but like they never adapt. They're like, well, we
Yeah,
have these, and like and they came out with the Berthier rifles in 1916. They really started manufacturing them, but like they had the Berthier model, the design, the rifle, the carbine rather, from 1890. But they were like, no, the Lebel is a fucking superior rifle. Whatever, we're gonna keep using it because we designed it and blah blah blah. And then in 1916, they were like, we need a new rifle. Well, we've got the Berthier that was designed in 1890 or a little bit before that, but like, okay, we'll go with that. It's a little bit faster loading, but like it was too late at that point. But like the French, yes, they have really good weapons for 20 years ago, most of the time.
That's a very, very good way of putting it.
Yep.
But no, it's interesting. And it's funny, again, conceptualizing things. After this, all the European armies fight overseas, really. It's all colonial stuff. And the colonial, things that happened in the 1870s actually are influenced box magazines and stuff. So it's very interesting how, like, when they come back to Europe in 44 years, we've learned a lot about warfare fighting in Africa. And
Well,
the
the box
Orient,
mags
so.
they happened in like the 1870s, but like
They
oddly enough,
started,
the Dutch were one of the first countries to actually adopt a box magazine.
Well,
with
it
a
was,
magazine
it
cutoff.
was really the Graw with its tubular magazine that kind of set the idea off because they had like the whole like
Sure, but, like,
we need the native
the-
power. We need to overpower the natives when they attack. The
Yeah,
fun
but like
switch.
so okay, the Dutch came out with the Beaumont Vitale 1871 rifle,
Mm-hmm.
which is a cool rifle. And then in 77 they were like, well, we need to put a 4-round box magazine on this fucker. And they were actually I think one of the first, if not the first, but like one of the first to have a box magazine on a fucking bolt action rifle. Black powder, mind you, but like it was like they were one of the first ones to do that. The rest of them had tube mags, which is fine, but it's very finicky. The box mag from the Dutch Beaumont Vitale rifle, I think it's my personal opinion, it's not a fact. I think that influenced a lot of like the Mauser rifles that came out in like the late 1880s and 90s and all that shit. Like for like, yeah, you can have that down there in the action, and then the tubular magazine is not a factor because there are a lot of problems with that. Even though, yeah, I know what you're saying. The 74 Mauser rifle, which came out like after the Franco-Prussian War, but like that had a tubular magazine, the 71-74, and it's like, yeah, it's good, but like
to sum all this up, this is an incredibly important time for weapons development and manufacturing.
this is the most important time in my opinion.
because you have blocks of periods of time where weapons are used. Like you have the wheel lock, you have the flint lock era. Like
Yep.
you have it forever. And then 1830s, 1840s, 1850s, right before the Civil War, you have modernization of firearms, standardization of parts, and then it takes off. You have one war, you learn a lesson where you make something that leads
Yes.
to another lesson that leads to something. And then you have industrialists, like after the Franco-Prussian War, you have Hotchkiss, who came over from my home state, Connecticut, to France because, quote, the Americans won't fight each other, but sell the Europeans artillery so they can cut each other in half. That was his fucking basic slogan. And guess what? Hotchkiss fucking is, all around the world. Yeah. He made really good artillery shells. That's how he made most of his money in the 1870s. Because the French had a problem. They had shitty artillery. So guess what he ended up helping make? The French 75.
My opinion is the 1870s and 80s were the most influential times for even our modern, like you buy a Winchester Model 70. Well, that's based on an action that was devised in the 1880s.
150 years ago.
More than that, 160.
And the crazy
like-
thing, and even in Europe, I mean, like, the name Drysill still
Dries,
yeah, I know I'm American and I say it awful. Is that it? You still were having pistols and other weapons completely named with his name, not actually named by or not actually made by him, but the name still following these products even now. I mean, it's actually incredible. Actually, the whole Drysill 1907 pistol, like that, I did a deep dive on that, and I figured out that he'd never touched that. That's just his name tied to it, and it was just companies buying companies thinking, oh well, he made the needle gun, so people will buy it because his name's attached to it. It's just
It's
so
a lot like
interesting to
Colt,
see how that
in the
works.
US. It's like-
Yeah.
Samuel Colt died long before a lot of these other.
The Colt 1911 won both of the wars for America.
Too bad that John Browning designed that motherfucker.
I drove past the Colt
hey.
building today.
But yeah, anyway, like it's really cool and like yeah.
To bring it back, though, they apparently didn't
Yeah,
have
bring it back.
prizes. They only had percussion muskets.
Yes. The guy gets to continue down the list. Yeah, they.
That's a Potsdam. I'm pretty sure what they're using. Potsdam. It's an Austrian fucking percussion rifle or musket rather, and they would have definitely been using these like a reserve unit.
Yeah.
Yep.
Field cannon is the only other one in here.
Yeah.
That's very specific, and
Yeah.
we're gonna analyze that to the point of we don't fucking know.
Big iron tube.
It's a cast iron cannon. Anyway. So that's the IMFDB.
It's probably made from some pipes they welded together.
Yeah, very short this time around. So.
Short and sweet. So
Sometimes you get that on IMFDB. There'll only be like one thing mentioned sometimes.
Yeah.
The older it gets, it's not like the M4 Spectrizer was used by the cavalry from Baden. And then, the special Spec 4 cavalry unit used it, whatever. It's just like, oh, you get the short one, you get the long one. Let's go kill them. There's no real differentiation as there is today with firearms and specialities and things. So
Right. So, yeah, I mean, at least they had an IMFDB. Like,
yeah,
we've done other films where we're like, what the fuck? They don't have one?
we should tally it up.
But this one's got one,
Yeah,
At least,
I think like 85% of them have IMFDBs. So
yeah, it's a decent amount, but like there's some that I would expect. You know what I mean? Like this one, I would not have expected that to have an IMFDB.
yeah,
I would not have at all. And there's others where I'm like, this one doesn't. What the fuck?
Like the last one we did.
yep, right.
But what the fuck was that?
12th Man.
The Norwegian one,
12.
whatever.
Yeah, 12. Why the fuck doesn't that have one?
right.
Like, what the
fucking
fuck?
stupid.
Yeah, it's weird.
So some other cool things about this film we could talk about quick, or what do you call it? This caused the end of the French Empire. As we were saying, it really set the course for the First World War, but the Third Republic falls.
Well, because the
Napoleon.
Prussians took over Alsace-Lorraine.
Yeah,
That was the huge thing. It's like that fucking region is, of all of the French like fucking nation states or whatever, that is the most contested because of the German French kind of nationalities that lived there. And in World War One, it was funny because that was a German province, right? But when U.S. troops went in there, they were all speaking French to them and like whatever, they're fine. But they were fighting the Germans there, so it's like, yeah, it's a fucking insane thing. But yeah, so that was like the thing that the French were the most bitter about is they were like, you took an entire fucking region from us in this war by force. We're not going to forgive you. And then we're going to fucking, after the First World War, the French did some crazy shit in the Rhineland. But that's for another podcast.
yeah. But what I thought was interesting, because this happened in Germany after their defeat in the First World War. There was a revolution that happened in Bavaria, and also they tried to do it in Berlin, a communist revolution, an overthrow. That happened in Paris. They actually took over Paris after the fact, and the communists tried to run it and have their own, French empire. And the French had to ask the Germans if they could rearm and take it out, which they allowed them to do. But I thought it was very interesting. You forget about that. It's the 1870s. Communism and Marxism, those ideas have been around for a good 20 years.
10 years. No, 10 years. What, 10 years.
1840s, late 1840s is, I think, when the manifesto comes out. But regardless, it's just interesting how I just forgot about that. So it's just very interesting. They collapse. You have this wave of revolutions, just like Germany does in 50 years. It was kind of cool. But we shall move on to ratings.
Yep.
And I start with Michael. What do you think?
Well, not a great movie. I'd say it's all right. It's pretty good. But the first half, really only like the third act into the end was what really, moved me. So I'd say 4.5 out of 10 because I don't think it's terrible, but at the same time, I'm like, it's as a whole, it's not all there. So for the things in it that I did like, which I say were the ending, the third act, I thought they were very, very interesting. So has some good stuff in it. It's on YouTube. It's free. So yeah, check it out.
Nice. Who you nominate?
Oh yeah. I'll pass it off to the man who couldn't stand it, and that is Old Bay Nathan himself.
Krabby Bay.
Yeah. Sounds like a Maryland girlfriend.
Marianne Lynn.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, it overall was, to me, a flop, but not in the reasons that I think people would guess. Um, I again, I think it suffers for it being a European film in 1980s, particularly a French art house type of film in the 1980s. That's just not really my jam, but I can respect for what it is. I would have gone a different route entirely. Um, but I can't really kind of knock it for it. It just was boring. It was slow for me. I suggest people watch it. Just be warned, it is very slow, very monotonous, and just not quite what you expect. But you might get something out of it that I didn't get. So I recommend people to give it a watch. It's free on YouTube. So if it's free, go for it. But I wouldn't pay any money for it. That's just my honest opinion. I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10 Scream Mel Gibsons. I'll be nice to it. Nothing made me angry. You know what I mean? Like it's not hyena road levels of fury. So it's I'm not gonna punish it. So I'm gonna say I'm gonna say like a 5 out of 10 Scream Mel Gibsons for that. Just because it doesn't try to go out and do something. It's just a mark. It's just a movie that missed its mark for me.
Mild
So,
Mel.
Yeah, a mild Mel. Yeah, I like that.
Who do you pass the talking pillow to?
Might be. Sorry.
Okay. This thing fell short in many ways that I'm just gonna say straight up. Like we were talking about with Danger Close. Are you making a film about the Franco-Prussian War? Or are you making a film about the kind of home front and like the things they had to endure because of the war? Like, what are we doing here? Like, either it's one or the other. You've got 90 minutes, right? So it's about an hour and 20 minutes. So yeah. You go into it and there's about 5 to 10 minutes of the Franco-Prussian War like in action. Okay, and again, not claiming that I'm one of these guys that like I have to have combat and fucking action and shit, but it's like it was a story about a kid. You know what I mean? Like it just fell very flat overall. It was like, okay, you got this guy that I did like the part about where he actually like sold his lucky number, because that did happen and does still happen today in countries, and it's happened in the United States as well. But like, yeah, that's cool. But like, he goes and he trains a little bit, and then he fights for 5 minutes, and then he meets a kid, and then the entire rest of the film is about him and this kid's relationship. And it's like, okay, well, are you trying to tell a story about something that was extremely impactful on the people who were involved at that time and then subsequently? Or are you just trying to make it like a human relation film? Like, what are we doing here? So, yeah, it fell very short. Pick one and don't fucking make it about, don't try and sell it on the fact that it's about the Franco-Prussian War. Because, like, there's nothing out there about the Franco-Prussian War, and it's a very important event. And don't just do something like this. That was my whole takeaway. Like, I also found it very boring, and like trying to get through it, and it fell flat. Blah blah blah. Yeah, it just. I don't know what else to say. I think I've said what I need to, and like through the whole thing. But yeah, so for me, this actually, the only reason it scores what I'm about to say is because it brings up, like I keep saying in all these podcasts, it brings up the attention of, oh, this conflict actually existed. So people can actually go and fucking research it and maybe go into a deep dive about it and be like, oh shit, yeah, that was pretty brutal and disgusting, and then it led to this shit and this shit. But as far as the film itself, late 80s, I get it, whatever, blah, blah, blah. but still it just fell so flat from what it could have been, I think. And I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 10.
Damn.
Brian.
Interesting. Yeah, it's just to reiterate, it's probably the only Franco-Prussian War film out there worth watching. As far as we know, there's a lot of older ones. Like there's a lot of silent era films that are like this when I was looking it up. But yeah, it's the one in the modern era, and it's for an art house film, and it's what you'd expect an art house film to be. The making certain decisions and things. It does suffer a lot from its technicalities and just a lot of things, but I think at the end of the day it does tell a story, and because of that I'm gonna give it a pretty mediocre rating of like a 7. It's got a shit ton of problems, don't get me wrong, but it's just the way that they use language and the way that the people react is just very interesting. It's just amazing how quick we are to assume anything, especially when you have a populace that's riled up. As the movie went on, I really was thinking a lot about the Oxbow incident.
I love that movie.
Yeah, and just that kind of stuff, like frontier justice and things, and that's what really pulls it up. Not the cinematography, not the fucking soothing sounds of jazz, it just.
That was weird.
As an editor and a cinematographer, this movie was painful.
I feel like I mentioned earlier, I think there's a story we're never going to know about horrible production because they had to have shot more combat. There's just too many variables here for them to make this. And I think it's just in the end just a lesson in filmmaking. Get all your shots, get all your coverage, and hopefully you can make something. Because if not, it ends up like this. So putting all the scores together to see if they ever will make another Franco-Prussian War film, we get a 4.8 out of 10. So if it's a rainy Thursday and you want to watch a movie, this is
fire up your VCR.
Or you fall asleep and you wake up at 3 a.m. This is on TV.
Yeah. Go get 98-cent gas down, at the truck stop, and then come back with your Domino's.
Just look up airport meatballs, and you'll get the same results.
And then in the commercial breaks, you get Pure Moods coming on. The commercial breaks, Pure Moods.
Was that thing?
Oh
was that
I shared that's the thing I shared last week.
That's the thing you shared around. Yeah, it was like that. Oh god, that
sail away, sail away, sail away.
Yeah.
That's the one that got me. It's just oh my god.
Whatever that opening song was, that's just what it's like.
I didn't remember that one.
Calling
Here,
back to
Return to Innocence by It's
Saturday.
goddamn.
Whatever that first song was, you
Enigma.
Yeah, you sent that out. I was I immediately was just
back to Innocence. Yep.
Okay.
Sat right in front of my grandmother's TV in fucking 1997.
Yep.
I'm like, what the?
Okay,
fuck?
incoming to Scuttlebutt.
Yeah. But
we'll put a link to this on the YouTube channel as well.
I was gonna say it's gonna be like behind enemy lines where I threw that in there.
Sail away.
Do you know? We talk about this every time when we were trying to find a Franco-Prussian War movie. We kept trying to do this one, but every time we think of it, we realized it wasn't a TV. It wasn't a movie. It was a TV series. What?
That's the Danish Prussian.
There's a Danish Prussian War. Okay, never mind. Okay, something.
No, there's literally
TV show.
nothing. There's literally nothing out there but the Franco-Prussian War.
Which is insane because it would be very, very interesting to. I mean, same thing with Waterloo and stuff we see all this stuff. It's there is a market.
Yep.
It's also very interesting, and this is I know we want to end this soon, but the whole thing is I've noticed since I think maybe the 1980s was the last kind of big push on Napoleon and anything European past 1840,
19th century European conflicts.
Yeah, there's really nothing anymore. It's either people aren't interested or people don't have the budget, or I don't know what it is, but there's a complete death in that genre, and I think that's what's really going to make Ridley Scott's Napoleon very interesting to watch, which is coming out next year.
Yeah, it might incite another
this
boom
year?
in that, like a boom in that type of.
Yeah, isn't that Joaquin Phoenix as Napoleon? Am I right?
They said
Okay. Yeah.
he did it such a good job. They had to fucking rewrite the movie. Like that's how
Okay.
much of it.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the photos look amazing. Like,
Yeah, the
they
photos look really good.
Yeah, because Napoleon, everybody like does the whole, he was a short guy. That's how the people that didn't like him that knew how to write wrote
Yeah.
him. He's about 5'8", which is pretty average. It's a little
the
bit
time,
taller than
yeah.
most of the people down there. Yeah, like he's a normal stature dude, and very fucking smart, very charismatic, very brutal, and like fucking whatever. Like he knew how to fucking lead, and yeah, it's like. But Joaquin Phoenix, like he's somebody that I could actually see doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's really kind
Look
of
at the photos of production. They look great.
he's always really kind of grabbed a role and really gotten into it.
Oh,
The other-
yeah.
The other thing that I'm really looking forward to or not looking forward to, actually I wanted to talk about. Same era, and I know I brought it with Sharp's Rifles, and I know Brian hates the soundtrack, I think, if I remember her conversations correctly. You have jazz, but then you have rock music for Sharps, and that's what makes Sharps so good, though, to me. So I feel like that is like the opposite of the same era, just better taste in music and better choice. I know, but Brian, was it you and I who got into that
I
argument?
can't do a riff. Yeah,
dude. It's
like,
so good.
look, the Spanish are dead,
Dude.
Like fucking,
UK. Like,
I don't need fucking Slash in the background, just being like, it's like, oh, here comes the artillery, down,
dude, it works, but it works. It's better than
I'll say this.
we're walking into a field with a
Yeah.
kid. Bounce.
It's better than C minor. Like fucking like, is there a mirror in the sky? Like where are we going? It's what's happening next.
Like there's mixed vibes with the kid and jazz
completely,
music.
yeah.
But with the rock music, he's.
This is a lot easier to make fun of as well. So
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway,
should make like
sorry.
a dubbed version of SPR where it's just jazz in the background. It's like thunder, flash, like, shit like that.
Oh, I could do that. That'd be
Or
fun.
like Battlefield 1, but like jazz sounds. Or sorry, All
got
Quiet
ankles
Western
like an
Front,
old lady.
just jazz sounds.
Well, that's like how like I remember like Call of Duty World at War. The soundtrack had like electric guitar in it and shit like that.
right.
That's
That's a video game though. Like,
I know, but like I remember because then Fury was the same way. It had like the same kind of soundtrack where
Yeah.
like it was like but all of a sudden you'd hear like a dun 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 like electric guitar riff or
I
something.
actually like Fury soundtrack. I don't know what you're talking about.
I'd like it if it wasn't in that movie.
I'm gonna see my. You can cut this, Nate. I'm gonna see my friends out and shows. So I'm gonna have that whole episode coordinated. My 2 tanker buddies go. So sometime in April we'll probably tackle that movie. I think. So they're down near you, Nathan, in Delaware. So we gotta figure out Mike's.
Sick.
But that's my general friend and my MI friend. So talk
Yeah,
about
you've
it.
been telling me about that you want to get those guys for that one.
It's gonna be interesting. Yeah, they'll hate it for reasons you don't expect.
Weren't
so.
they on it?
Sorry.
Those people? Are those?
No, those are the
people?
English guys that I can also talk to about being on the episode. But then we'll have like 17 people in here. So
They got
'Cause I
the-
remember you had friends who did the whole bivouac scene.
yes, I do. Yeah, the guy that
Yeah.
fought Shia LaBeouf. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can see if he can come on.
The guy that fucks Shia LaBeouf,
Yeah, he fought
Fish
Shia
fighting
LaBeouf.
in the mud. Shia LaBeouf.
Yep.
he fucked him like physically.
No,
or
no.
fought
fucking
him.
Fist
figured
fought
it out?
him.
Fought
No.
him. Fought.
Oh,
Yeah, he and Shia LaBeouf, they bumped uglies on set. Yeah, it was great.
well, I was
Yeah.
gonna say, like, is there something that I don't know that you
There's
do?
a physical
Cool.
altercation that did not involve penetration.
Okay, cool.
I don't know why that rhymed. But
Bumping uglies.
You're like the guy that fucked Shia LaBeouf. Like,
fought.
Oh,
that's
yeah,
exactly what I heard.
Yeah,
That's what I heard. And I'm like,
sorry.
fought.
I
You
went to
fucking
Massachusetts
fought
today,
him.
okay? I talked to some assholes.
it's
Fought,
still
you
pretty
know,
crazy
fucking-
though.
Yeah, it's a pretty funny story. But we'll definitely have that down soon. Anyway, it's a very interesting film for what it is. It's
Anyway,
unfortunate.
talking about fucking Shia LaBeouf.
It turned out
Yeah, whoops.
it turned out differently than we wanted it to. If we all want a good Franco-Prussian, we all want a good movie about every single war to watch and just get into. This is the best that's out there, so it's worth a watch and just to get involved in history.
What the fuck is going on?
And on that bombshell, see you next week.
Nice.
Like a fucking. And we're ending the podcast.
I just dropped a pen. I did not do that.
Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to leave a rating. Otherwise, Mel Gibson won't stop screaming. If you like this content, make sure to check out our Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram pages. If you want to directly support our work, make sure to check out our Patreon. All these links are in the description below. Until the next time, Scuttlebutt out. We joined the French First Corps in out.
Just have that be the intro.
That was a nice one. That
was
was
I'm
great.
sorry.
That was beautiful.
I'm sorry. Sorry.
We joined the
Sorry.
Well, that's a
the
short.
French First
I'm
Corps.
sorry.
Brought to you by
There we go.
Coca-Cola.
That was like on the edge. That was like it's like a hair over a verb.
No, this motherfucker's drinking squirt. Let's be honest here.
Oh.
He's drinking fucking squirt. Let's
It's
be
just
honest.
piss, okay? Just
Man, I haven't seen
It's
that
not-
since I was in LA.
Squirt?
Yeah. Well,
Squirt, yeah.
Well,
It's
okay.
soda.
Well, yeah. I just now realized that. Okay, never mind. Never mind.
It's soda.
the pop.
It's just
the
a
pop
soda.
that he's drinking.
It's just a
yeah,
soda.
it's-
What? It's just a soda.
It's just a soda. Morty, it's just a soda. What's the big
Are you
deal
guys
here?
ready for a 20-minute adventure?
Yep.
She says it's special and it's not piss.
It's just a 20-minute adventure, Morty. Nothing more, nothing less. Let's just go.
We joined the French First Corps this week, and God damn it, we joined the French.
You stop.
We joined the French First Corps this week in Alsace with Jean-Pierre.
No, not corpse. No.
I'm gonna piss you off. With Jean-Pierre
Corps.
Denis's 1987 Franco-Prussian War
Don't do
film,
this.
Field of Honor.
Don't do this.
No. Brian, just restart one more time. I know I won't speak. Nathan knows his ass won't make a fucking sound. And Mike has been pretty good, so I'm not going to bitch at him. So,
Pretty good.
all right.
I'm putting my hand on.
Brian, restart, and it's core. It's not corpse. A corpse is a body.